board appointments to the next council meeting.
So just as a question to that, so was it a public offering to sign up for the board? Or how, or was it recruitment by city administration, or how do people get up, sit on here?
The previous board had the training, so we looked to the previous board for their acquiescence to rejoin. Some had said yes, and we got out to the community members, and we saw input from administration as well.
Okay, thank you.
So because of Part 17, the city clerk being enacted in Alberta, this was just some catch up what we had to do from the perspective of our legislation.
Absolutely. The charter applies. However, we follow through the charter part 17 of the MMGA since it was updated as of April 1st. The changes became known to us, so we're moving now to comply.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Diachak.
Move that council grant bylaw 2-2018 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 24-2016 subdivision and redevelopment appeal board bylaw seconded.
Seconded. Councilor Thorson. Any further discussion, comments before I call for the question? Not seeing any. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Go to council for direction. Councilor Diachak.
Council grant bylaw 2-2018 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 24-2016 subdivision and development appeal board bylaw third and final reading.
Seconded. Councilor Thorson. Any further questions, comments? Not seeing any. I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving to the agenda. 7.2 is the city manager's office. Anything to add?
You missed one.
Yes. 7.14. I look to the city manager to read to the city clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I move forward on this, I'd like to, I misspoke earlier, the gas agreement is a 12-year agreement. So I apologize. The matter before you is the bid bylaw repeal. Council is very familiar with this item, and we're only asking for one reading with the city.
Thank you, city clerk. Any questions or comments?
I'll make that motion.
All right.
The council grant bylaw 17-2018 being a bylaw to repeal the downtown business district bylaws, bylaw 31-1989 and bylaw 1441-2013, first reading.
Seconded. Councilor Diachak. Any further discussion? Comments? I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. My apologies, I jumped ahead on the agenda location. So 7.3, the office of city clerk. Anything to add? All right. 7.4, chief financial officer. Nothing to add. All right. Moving to 7.5, community development services. Up to the city manager, to the executive manager, stay.
Thank you, Worship Council. One item before you here today is the Lloyd Golf and Curling Center exterior building project. Administration is looking for council to approve the award of the Lloydminster Golf and Curling exterior building project to Bexon Construction Limited of Lloydminster, Alberta, in the amount of $372,795, excluding GST. And in addition, council approve a contingency allowance of 1.4% or $5,205 to be funded through the approved capital budget. Just to give some insight into why 1.4%, it maximized the budget that was allocated in 2018 capital budget that was approved by council. So the capital funding approved was $390,000. The total cost of the project plus that 1.4% contingency maximizes the $390,000. We do anticipate very little, if none, any additions to the contract, but you won't know until you get into the project. Community Services identified this project as a priority in the 2018 budgeting process. In April, an RFP was sent out to seek contractors willing to do the work. We received 2 bids back. the original RFP went out with a provisional item to do some extra or enhanced work around the existing brickwork, which was to include some stucco and rock around where the existing brickwork was existing on the building. And the prices were as follows. The base rate without the provisional items, Bexon Construction, $395,900, CWP Contractors, $577,422. The provisional item, as discussed, the stucco was stone over the existing brick, was an additional $149,770 from Bexon Construction and $95,020 from CWP Constructors. Total cost, Bexon Construction $545,670 as compared to CWP Contractors at $600,072. My apologies, my mind's running. $422. Both bids were higher than the original budget, as I identified earlier, the $390,000 we had in our capital budget. RMIS Engineering in the City of Lloydminster revised the scope of work to ensure costs stayed within the budget. The revisions made to the scope of work included changes to, there's a typo here, it's not the installation used, it was the building wrap being used for construction, and the type of exterior siding used in some locations, stucco in some locations instead of paneling or decorative rock, and painting the rough cylinders instead of re-siding with stucco. Both proponents were provided the opportunity to resubmit pricing on the revised scope of work and design. CWP Constructors Limited chose not to resubmit a final bid. Therefore, the final proposals from the two contractors, Bexon Construction $372,795 and CWP Contractors chose not to submit. Council has a few options. Number one, that they award the contract to Bexon Construction on a revised scope, or that council approve the award of the project, including the original design, in addition to the provisional items for $545,670, excluding GST. The additional funds for the project would be funded through contingency allowances, and contingency allowances to be funded through capital budget reserve, or that council direct administration to bring forward more information prior to making the decision, or fourthly, that council directs administration to cancel the capital project. Budget implications: the approved budget for the Lloyd Golf and Curling Center exterior building project was approved at $390,000. The breakdown of the project is Bexon Construction Limited, $372,795, excluding GST, as well as a contingency up to $5,205. The remaining amount of $12,000 is will be left owing to RMIS Engineering for their services. And I'll pass it back to you, Your Worship, if you have any questions. I also have Joel Turcott here if need be, he has more insight into the project.
Thank you, Executive Manager Donald. Questions? Councilor Torsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. To me, it kind of looks like we have two real options on the table of what we could go with as far as pricing options, but the big question to me would be, does spending the additional funds give you a longer useful life, or does it not really make any difference? And then, are there any operating cost savings on, because we're talking about changing the type of insulation, is there significant operating cost savings from the better insulation that would make it worth your while to do that in the long run?
Yeah, first of all, that was a typo, sorry. It wasn't the insulation that was changed, it was the wrap, the building wrap that was being used. So, not sure of the operational savings that would be incorporated there. That would be something, Joel, you might be able to, or Lana. Joel. Not sure if we have that type of information, Councillor.
The building wrap is just a different type of building wrap. The first budget was on what's called Blue Skin Building Wrap, which is a really good building wrap. The second one, I'm told, is just a kind of industrial size, very similar, just a little less, not as good, I guess, but will not change the project too much. Okay. Did that answer your
Yeah, I suppose so. It changes a lot when we say installation rather than insulation, because my brain has, you know, a different question, I guess. But if it's just a matter of aesthetics of the type of material, but it really could be all the same color and everything, I don't see why you would pay the additional.
The building wrap is just what you wrap the building in, right? It's just that plastic that you have to build it. It's not the insulation.
Like Tyvek.
Yeah, it changes to Tyvek.
Okay.
Yeah, so our apologies, I found out about the typo here this morning as well. So it wasn't, I understand your perspective from an insulation perspective that could produce some operational efficiencies through better sealing and everything else. It's not insulation, it's just the paper wrap that they put down prior to the siding that they're gonna be using.
Okay.
And it's just a different type of product. When it was first tendered, the contractor had supplied a different product, and when he came back with a second price, he provided an option to reduce that cost by using an alternative paper. So I hope that answers it a little bit.
No, I think it does. At the end of the day, we're talking about we're talking mostly the difference in pricing is painting cinder blocks rather than putting stucco on them, or probably the big thing, and probably fine for the use of it. It's not going to change the useful life of the building, and it's still going to look freshened up with a new coat of paint. So yeah, I definitely don't see why we would spend the additional money. My other question is just as far as timing. I just wanted to confirm this is going to be happening after the golf season, but before winter, if this was to go through.
Yeah, I asked about timing, Councillor Morrison. Where the aim would be, of course, either really late summer or in the fall. But until the contractor is able to actually start ordering this material, we won't know for sure.
Okay.
Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Worship. I had similar questions. I didn't know the extent of the rental without having a set of drawings and specs, so it's kind of hard to determine at $140,000 or whatever is different. On the insulation, the air valley, that's for the whole building. How much of the building's covered with new insulation?
Thank you, Your Worship. We won't be changing any of the insulation. Again,
Big preference insulation.
yeah, I apologize. That was a typo. That should have been building wrap, not
Simply
insulation.
building wrapping is what I understand, Councilor. So.
You said insulation.
I know,
That's a good deal.
well, that's what I thought too. I thought we were going to get a layer of insulation.
It's a good deal.
It was a good deal.
Well, okay, that might change my thinking then. I might as well finish now. The other thing was the exterior siding. Which exterior siding are you talking about changing?
So it's
The old cedar?
Pardon?
The old cedar siding?
Yes, that's correct.
You better think about that one. That's pretty bad shape, that stuff. The third thing was, and there may be more,
Sorry, Councillor, were you asking what we're replacing it with? Or were you asking us what we're replacing? We're replacing the wood side cedar siding that's currently on there, replacing it with metal cladding siding and stucco. So we're taking off the cedar.
in your option? Or in the original?
For the 372,000 that we're asking for, yes.
Okay. Well, then I was looking at the block, and that being a porous product, even if you paint it, in the long haul, it's going to absorb moisture. Blocks do that. And I just wondered, when I had insulation and siding, and maybe it was a good deal to spend $140,000, it still might be, but I'm not sure where I'm at now. I'm all over the place on this. So we've got to leave it up to you.
So the question I had, unless anybody else has any other questions, How was this bid? Because in some of the RFPs we see it went to SAS tenders, CoolNet, was that in the same case in this tender?
Sorry, Lana, maybe, or Pete, can you tell you guys work with
Yeah, we went through using a consultant. We went, we created a tender document that was posted on SAS vendors, APC, CoolNet, City's website.
Okay. No, why I asked, we only had 2 bids to start with, kind of concerned me, but I understand there's other things going on and it may not fit into everybody's perspective.
It was publicly tendered, everybody had the same opportunity, and it was disappointing that we only had 2 bids, but that happens sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I just want to make sure that taxpayers know that we are trying to ensure that we are getting as many people in the community that are eligible to bid on a project like that to bid. And if that's all they bid, so be it. Councilor Baker.
Thank you. I am confused on what we're doing exactly. And I'm just wondering if the administration, I know you got 4 recommendations here, and I know why you went back to your original recommendation because of the budgetary item. The question is, if you could find the money to do it, would you upgrade it to your number 1 or whatever option you call with the wrap and everything?
Thank you, Your Worship. In my personal opinion, I feel option 1 is the best from a financial perspective. I believe the option 2, which is spending the $545,000, is more aesthetic than it is required. Therefore, I think we will get a very useful life out of what we're proposing in option 1 and feel that is the best action for the city to move forward on.
Good answer. Thank you.
Councilor Tajik.
Yeah, the only thing is that insulation threw me off too, because now I was thinking about heat and lost value and sinking down of all the stuff from the cement bricks and all that other piece. So I guess in terms of really dealing with any heat loss on that, the brick portion of the building and the curling brick, we're not dealing with that at this point. Because what we're adding on there will be minimal in terms of impacting that. So aesthetic, but nothing to do with capture and retention of energy.
That's my understanding.
Again, maybe R1, R2 with the Tyvek and stuck over it. As Councilor Baker outlined, it's porous, it's concrete. If you put a wrap on it, it'll settle it down just a little bit. Keep the moisture out anyways.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Joe. I'll look to council for direction. Councilor Fagan.
That council approved the award of the LGCC exterior building project to Bexton Construction Limited of Lloydminster, Alberta, in the amount of $372,795, excluding GST, and that the mayor and city clerk are authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. In addition, council approved the contingency allowance up to 1.4% or $5,205 to be funded through the approved capital budget.
Seconder, Councilor Bradshaw. Any further discussion or comments?
I have
Certainly.
I should have probably declared a conflict because my grandson works for Bexton for the summer.
So if you wish to step
And I
forward.
totally forgot about it till just now.
Not a problem.
So if I could accuse
If
myself of
you
it.
so wish, that's certainly, it's your prerogative. So at this time, any further questions, comments? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor Torres, will you rescind that? Good catch, Councilor. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. We're going to return back to the agenda and move back to item number 6, public hearings. And it's reached the 2 o'clock hour. So this time, bylaw 14-2018, proposed amendment to the land use bylaw. I would like to note before we begin that during a public hearing, we ask that you respect the views of everyone here and allow each person the time to speak without interruption. Each person wishing to speak has up to 5 minutes to make a presentation to council. If you wish to speak, please state your name for the record, and whether you are in support of or opposed to the proposed bylaw. When you have finished speaking, please remain at the front of as council may wish to ask you questions. All discussions of council members, city staff, and delegations shall be directed to the chairperson. Any questions brought forward by the public, which are not able to be addressed during this meeting, will be done so at the next council meeting. Council will not debate this matter during this hearing, and the decision regarding whether or not to grant the bylaw further readings will be dealt with following the public hearing. I declare the public hearing for bylaw 14-2018, proposed amendment to the land use bylaw, open at 2:02 p.m. I would ask the city clerk to confirm whether or not the public hearing has been advertised in accordance with the applicable legislation and summarize the purpose of this hearing.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can confirm that this public hearing has been advertised and notice has been provided in accordance with the applicable legislation. This public hearing is advertised in the Radio Booster on April 24th and May 3rd. And the purpose of this public hearing is for bylaw 14-2018, being a proposed amendment to the land use bylaw.
Thank you. I will now call upon anyone wishing to speak who is opposed to the proposed bylaw. Not seeing anyone come forward, I will now ask if anyone wishes to speak in favor of the proposed bylaw. Not seeing anyone coming forward, I will now call on anyone else who is affected by the proposed bylaw that wishes to speak at this time. Not seeing anyone come forward, I now declare the public hearing for bylaw 14-2018 closed at 2:04 p.m. Turning back to the agenda, I believe we are at 7.6, operations. Executive Manager of Operations, anything to add?
No.
Thank you. 7.7, I'll look to the Chief of Staff.
I'd like to call John Stevens, our safety officer, to come forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. So on Monday, April 16th, we brought forward a draft substance use policy to GPC. And I'm just back today looking for direction from council. Administration's recommendation is that council approve policy 13502 and repeal policy CW 0113-21200. In the new policy 13502, we have some expanded information on accommodation and inclusions of undue hardship. We've improved some definitions and changed how the policy is applied. We've expanded information on reasonable suspicion and pre-access testing. And we just want to hold everyone to the same level in the city. So the two options that we have today are to approve policy 13502 and then repeal CW 0113-21200, or to direct administration to bring the draft substance use policy back to GPC with some changes.
Thank you, John. Any comments or questions? I see it certainly took into account the imposing or forthcoming cannabis legislation as the major update that we saw. And I read through it briefly yesterday and said, okay, it covers a lot of topics that are going to be very pertinent once the federal legislation changes.
Yeah.
It's a very thorough document. Yeah, they did a good job.
Councilor.
Pardon me. I think the other thing that's important is that we've often heard that, we want our employees to be going home at the end of the day safely, and I think this goes a few more steps down that pathway to ensure that our staff and administration and council all held accountable for our behaviors, our use, and ensuring that not only do we model the behavior that's appropriate in our community, but do so in a fashion at the end of the day everybody gets to go safely back to their families. So I think at the heart of that, this covers the bulk of it, and certainly support it.
Councilor Torson.
Thank you, Your Worship. My only question around this was just around the impairment side of things, because we referenced the Criminal Code of Canada. Now, is that something that every individual employee is going to have a record of, or have to have an understanding of the entire impairment section of the Criminal Code? And I only wonder that just because maybe even what we are doing before, I spoke in favor of doing that kind of thing, and it's also a moving target based on what the experts are saying impairment is. But is it creating too high of a standard of knowledge for an individual to know the Criminal Code of Canada, what they say for impairment or not? Because I would think that they would need to have read an understanding of that, or read and have an understanding of that, so that they could fully apply this policy. Although, pretty simply, don't do drugs when you go to work. That seems pretty straightforward. But when you get into milligram limits and things like that, is that an unreasonable request for people to know the standards that exist within that document?
Thank you, Councillor Torres. As a generalization, I do believe that people are fairly aware of legal impairment standards. We could clearly define it, but we're going to be defining the exact same thing that's referenced anyways. And then if anything does change when it comes to the definitions of impairment, we will have to come back and amend our policy.
And that's fine, and I totally understand why we would do it that way. But do we need to provide them with what is the milligrams per whatever cocaine you can have in your system to define what impairment is? Do they have to know what that is? Or do you have to provide them with that along with the policy?
We can always add deliverables to our staff. We are going to be going through, and we have other documents, we've got directives that are going to apply, so we could incorporate some of that information into those other documents.
I think it's important as well, though, to discriminate illicit drugs versus impairment. And in the first instance, if you're doing cocaine, if you illicit, it would fall in that category. So I think that would grab the first group, and then clearly if there's behavior to suggest that you were over, that the impairment would grab that second category. And I think in terms of knowledge, everybody knows which drugs are legal or illegal to start with, so that category would grab that part of it. The second part, though, is even from legal prescriptions. Part of the responsibility of the pharmacist when you pick up your prescription is, are you familiar with this drug? These are the do's, these are the don'ts, and there's information that typically comes with any prescription you get that says you should not be operating equipment, or you should not be doing this while taking this particular medication. So I think there's a lot of safety checks in this process. But I hear the question, but I think it's important to recognize which category you're going to get hammered with. It's cocaine, other drugs are illegal, and it says there if you're taking drugs that are legal, out you go.
Answers that question. Any other comments or concerns? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I'll look to council for recommendation on substance use. Council Gotcha.
Council approved policy number 135-02, substance use policy.
And do we want that in two separate, or do we want to have a second one to read the same separate? Okay. Very well. Okay, very good. Okay, sir. So, seconder, Councilor Fagnan. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for a question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So I'll look to for a second motion.
The council repeal policy number CW-01-13-21200, drug and alcohol use policy.
Seconder, Councilor Monroe. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, moving on to the agenda. Takes us to item number 8, correspondence and information items. Clerk, is there any correspondence? All right. I don't have any report at this time as mayor. Any councilors wish to present anything orally that they'd like at this time to know? Councilor Gotcha.
Your Worship, I was in Bud Miller Park on the weekend, and although I'm glad I did participate in the muck run, I observed I don't know how many, 100 or more, I'm sure the media can report better in it, but they're having an absolute blast. So there are a lot of sponsors out there that were engaged in supporting this activity, and it was awesome to see the different groups from outside the community as well participating, and a mucky time was held by all, and it was funny as hell to see people coming through there and sliding into the little retention pond as well as getting getting hosed down or whatever. So the weather was great, and again, it's one more of those activities that really reflects that engagement by people to want to get out and support a good cause. So I think the proceeds went to the Health Foundation, so good on them, and I think a lot of people had a lot of fun in the process.
Thank you. Councilor Thorson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I recently used one of the city services. I hear different things as you talk to the public. Some people have good things to say, some people have bad things to say sometimes. So I had an opportunity to test out a particular area I had never used before. I had to build a deck. So I went to go get the permit, and I had a 24-hour turnaround to get my development permit. And I was really impressed with our planning and development staff in getting that done now. I don't know if it's because I'm special. I doubt it. I think they're that way with everyone because that's what they said. I would just say I'm really impressed with the 24-hour turnaround.
Excellent. Compliments to the administration. Anything else, anyone else wishes to add at this time? Not seeing any, is there any other items that this council needs to deal with at this time? Not seeing any being raised, I will look to inquiries from the media.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, there are media requests for yourself, Mayor Albers, as well as Councillor Dijak.
All right, I will look to council for direction for break. Council. Seconded. Councilor Monroe, all in favor? Opposed, carried.